Hello there, thanks for joining us this Friday. I am Azlina Najri and these are tonight's top stories. The MACC moots whipping to punish graft offenders. Police foil biggest Macau scam syndicate so far with nearly 100 arrests. And billion-dollar whale to be made into movie. A multi-vehicle crash occurred on the North-South Expressway near Tapah early today, injuring a dozen people, including a Perak State Assemblyman. The 6:20 a.m. collision on the southbound lane of the highway involved a lorry, SUV and MPV. Police said Cenderoh lawmaker Datuk Zainun Mat Noor was among 12 people hurt in the accident. It was believed that the lorry had went out of control and crashed in the middle of the highway. The 62-year-old rep, who was driving a Honda CR-V on his way to Kuala Lumpur to attend the UMNO General Assembly, failed to stop in time and crashed into the lorry. A Proton Izora trailing behind also met the same fate and crashed into both vehicles. All the victims fortunately did not sustain serious injuries and were taken to Tapah Hospital for treatment. The accident is being investigated under the Road Transport Act. Now, a Datuk Sri in his 40s and a 14-year-old were among 99 people involved in a scamming syndicate crippled by police 2 days ago. Bukit Aman Commercial Crime Investigation Department CCID Chief Datuk Sri Ishar Singh revealed this in a press conference today and stated that the scamming syndicate had operated as a call centre in an upmarket office space in KL Central and preyed on investors in China. The 99 individuals picked up in the 1:40 p.m. raid led by Datuk Sri Amar Singh were aged between 12 and 44, including 21 women. Out of the total, 6 were locals, while the rest were Chinese nationals. The syndicate followed the same modus operandi as other Macau scam syndicates, targeting victims in China by posing as officials from the Republic's law enforcement bodies and banking entities. Among the items seized were 169 mobile phones and 114 laptops.
We are actually urging the government to get these telcos to upgrade their system to be able to tell us where the IP address is from using this, where the calls are coming from. Because other countries can do it, but Malaysia we find it difficult. So we are urging the telcos to invest more in their system to be able to assist us. Where such calls comes in, they can locate where the IP address is, where the call is actually coming from.
Initial investigations also revealed that the syndicate raked in several million ringgit each month. The suspects have been remanded to facilitate the police probe under the Penal Code, Immigration Act and Passport Act. It was estimated that Macau scams have caused more than 100 million ringgit in losses each year, while cybercrime as a whole has cost more than 500 million ringgit in losses each year. Meanwhile, police will summon former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Najib Tun Razak and wife Datin Sri Rosmah Mansor for interviews on possible commercial crimes related to the One Malaysia Development Berhad, 1MDB, corruption scandal. Datuk Sri Amar Singh, in confirming this today, said that investigators require information from the couple to assist in their probe.
We have so far recorded about 70-odd statements. In this case, we will still be recording several other statements. And we shall be calling Datuk Sri Najib soon with regard to this case, 1MDB. Yes, she will. Yes, she will.
I believe it's your department who's going to handle that. When would she be called?
Soon. Soon. I think date is not important. Soon for her to give us her clarification as to the item seized.
Datuk Sri Amar Singh also confirmed former 1MDB CEO Arul Kanda had been called in by police to have his statements concerning the embattled State Wealth Fund recorded by authorities. Yesterday, Deputy IGP Tan Sri Nur Rashid Ibrahim said that police will be calling Datin Sri Rosmah soon to assist investigation into the jewellery seized by police in June, believed to be hers. The jewellery is also believed to be linked to the 1MDB case. Datuk Sri Najib is facing 21 counts of charges related to money laundering involving more than 4.3 billion ringgit and 4 counts of corruption involving 2.3 billion ringgit involving 1MDB funds, which was banked into his personal account. Now, the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission MACC today mooted for the government to impose whipping punishment on graft offenders. Its Chief Commissioner, Datuk Sri Shukri Abdul, said this would serve as a deterrent to those who commit corruption as well as the general public.
Tapi tak mungkin berlakulah di Malaysia sebab Malaysia kerajaan telah pun bercadang untuk menghapuskan hukuman membunuh kepada jenayah macam drug kan. So bagi saya kalau tak boleh cara tu, saya nak cadangkan macam saya cakap tadi lah, sebab kena confirm sebab ni saya rasa dia memberi deterrent kepada pelaku-pelaku rasuah.
He said this in an interview with Bernama after the heads of department at the news agency made a declaration and signed a corruption-free pledge at Wisma Bernama. Datuk Sri Muhammad Shukri also noted that existing anti-corruption laws only provide a maximum of 20 years jail for those found guilty of graft. Under the MACC Act, the general penalty for any corruption-related offence is a maximum of 20 years imprisonment and a minimum fine of 10,000 ringgit or 5 times the value of the bribe, whichever is higher. Meanwhile, the display of the list on the declaration of assets by members of the cabinet and MPs on the MACC portal has been postponed from October 1st to 15th. Its Chief Commissioner said the postponement was to enable all the ministers and lawmakers to submit their asset declaration, as not all of them had completed 3 months of service.
So saya harap dalam masa 2 minggu ni dia percepatkanlah sebab dia punya borang tu terlampau simple, ringkas. Kita dah ringkaskan borang tu dan ambil masa tak sampai 2 jam pun siap. Kejap je.
Datuk Sri Muhammad Shukri also said the declaration of assets as of now did not involve state assemblymen and other state-level leaders. In another development, the MACC has seized and frozen a total of 2.5 billion ringgit in cash since June. Datuk Sri Muhammad Shukri revealed the seizures were the result of various offences such as bribery, misappropriation, abuse of power, as well as those involving the One Malaysia Development Berhad 1MDB investigation. Over in Malacca, a couple were sent to the gallows after the Aikoro High Court found them guilty of murdering a man in Merlimau 3 years ago. The verdict was delivered by Judge Datuk Siti Khadijah Sheikh Hassan Badjenit on Nur Fatihah Sakira Muhammad Tahir and her boyfriend Firdaus Abdul Karim, both aged 22. The judge ruled that the defendants killed Muhammad Azhar Suhaini Hilaluddin, aged 27, between 11:30 p.m. on December 31st, 2014 and 1 a.m. the next day in Bandar Baru Merlimau Utara, Jasin. Based on the facts of the case, Nur Fatihah Sakira and the victim had a cyber-romantic relationship since the victim was in Form 3. Their relationship, however, did not last when the woman went to further her studies at a higher institution of learning in Merlimau. On the day of the incident, the victim, a Tenaga Nasional Berhad TNB contract worker in Perak, went to Malacca to meet the woman for the first time. The other defendant, Firdaus, became jealous after stabbing the victim and slashing his neck. The body was then disposed by the accused at a nearby sewage treatment plant. The victim's body, which had no personal identification, was later found by members of the public. The duo were charged under Section 302 of the Penal Code, which provides the mandatory death sentence upon conviction. The Customs Department has seized over 4,000 litres of bootleg alcohol in 220 raids in the Klang Valley amid a spate of methanol poisoning that has killed 40 people to date. The department's Director General, Datuk Sri Subramaniam Tolasi, said today that the nationwide crackdowns jointly conducted with the police are still ongoing. Now, at a media conference this afternoon, the Customs DG said there was another successful raid that was carried out on a house in Taman Klang Utama, Klang.
Kita boleh mendakwa sesiapa saja yang membenarkan premis mereka untuk penggunaan pemprosesan arak secara haram. Kerana siapa-siapa yang memproses arak dalam negara perlu mendapat lesen daripada Jabatan Kastam di bawah Akta Excise. Ya, media sebab nak mewar-warkan ya supaya.
In the raid, the brands seized were Mandalay, Club 99, Grand Royal, Kappa and several others that were associated with the recent methanol poisoning deaths. The quantity of the liquors and beers seized is about 1,966 litres with an estimated value of 105,800 ringgit, which costs 260,090 ringgit in tax payments. The Customs Department also detained a 63-year-old Malaysian to facilitate investigations. The case is being investigated under the Excise Act 1976 and the Customs Act 1976.
Jadi inilah dia antara ini yang bagus.
Now, the newly appointed Election Commission Chairman Azhar Azizan Harun today said the Port Dickson by-election will be his first test as the EC chief. He added the by-election might be an ordinary one, but it is expected to receive nationwide attention due to the famous personalities involved.
Bagaimana kita tahu, Port Dickson ini ialah satu by-election yang biasa, tapi oleh kerana apa nama orang kata personality yang terlibat yang akan bertanding, maka by-election Port Dickson ini menerima perhatian seluruh negara. Saya rasa perhatian dunia pun. Ya. Jadi it is important that by-election Port Dickson.
Speaking to reporters on his first day reporting for duty at the Commission's headquarters in Putrajaya earlier today, Azhar Azizan also said he will be meeting the Electoral Reform Committee ERC Chairman Tan Sri Abdul Rashid Abdul Rahman soon to improve the electoral system in the country. He also assured that the EC will ensure that the Port Dickson by-election will be conducted in a clean and fair manner. Former Australian Prime Minister Kevin Rudd has described Prime Minister Tonton Mahathir Mohamad as the patron saint of political comebacks. This was following the Prime Minister's speech at the Asia Society in New York, where the Premier is attending the 73rd United Nations General Assembly. An impressed Rudd, who moderated the event, called the feat by Tun Dr. Mahathir in leading Pakatan Harapan to victory in the 14th general election as a bravura performance.
But as you said, this requires a lot of hard work. Your stamina is quite extraordinary. I mean, as Tom said, you're 93. Many of us stand in awe of that. What's your secret to such health? I think everyone wants to know the answer to that question.
Well, I get this question asked practically anywhere I go or speak. People just wonder, I myself wonder why, because I don't really know. I've been fortunate in that I did not suffer from diseases that are incurable. Yeah. I've had 2 heart operations, but beyond that, I'm quite well.
When delivering his half-hour-long speech, Tonton Mahathir provided an explanation on the new Malaysia, why he had returned to politics, and the woes faced by the country due to the weaknesses of the previous government administration.
Malaysia is not always new, it's been quite old in terms of a newly independent country. We have never experienced any change. We love the party which won us the independence so much that we keep on re-electing that party. Incidentally, I was the president of that party for 22 years. But I decided that 22 years was long enough. I resigned. Although I haven't been known as a dictator, but I don't think many dictators have resigned.
During the question and answer session, Tonton Mahathir also stressed that he had wanted East Asian countries to form their own trade community, just like the North America Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, and the European Union, EU. According to the Prime Minister, although it could be challenging to form a community like that due to the differences in culture, such countries can cooperate in certain fields which are economically beneficial to all parties.
Well, it's going to be quite difficult because ethnically we are quite different, people with different culture. But in one or two areas we can come together. For example, we trade using the US dollar. We could have a token, East Asian token or currency that we use purpose only for trading. It's not to be used domestically, but we settle all trade differences using this East Asian currency for trading only. That could bring us together quite well, but later on, if we begin to understand each other better, then we can go into other areas of cooperation.
Tonton Mahathir also highlighted the irony of him being chosen as Prime Minister by Pakatan Harapan leaders, who some, before this, had labelled him as a dictator.
The more strange thing is that having been criticized by the opposition for 61 years, or for a long time, over 50 over years, they decided that they should choose me as their leader. It is really a contradiction. They used to call me a dictator, a very unjust leader, and all kinds of other names. But after I resigned, they had no difficulty accepting me to lead them. And it is their decision to name me as the prospective leader and Prime Minister of Malaysia.
Now when we return, road bully gets triggered from a honk on the road. Details next. Welcome back. Now let's take a look at our daily segment Clickbait for what's trending and making rounds in the cyber world today. So just when we thought we would be done with aggressive road bullies, another one shows up. A 44-year-old woman in Kuching, Sarawak encountered a scary road rage incident when a man with a parang attacked her car. She managed to record the terrifying event, and the video now has over 17,000 views and 158 shares on Facebook. So the man was reportedly driving recklessly and dangerously, overtaking her car, which led her to honk at him. Furious by the woman's action, he blocked her car before getting out to hit her windshield, then continue driving. After chasing after him and honking to ask him to pull over, the man stepped out of his car again, but this time with a machete in hand, which he used to break the woman's car window. Terrified, she hopped over to the front passenger seat and exited the car as she was afraid that he would hurt her. Luckily, he just glared at her and got back into his car before driving off casually as if nothing had happened. The police managed to identify the suspect as a 29-year-old man from Kampung Lidah Tanah. Now, Nur Ezni Sharmimi Abdul Aziz was recently fined 2,500 ringgit in the Kota Baru Magistrates Court for blackmailing a 20-year-old woman by threatening that she was going to send some goons to gang rape her. Now, it turns out the victim, Nur Azira Awang, was allegedly having an affair with Nur Ezni's husband. Already threatening the extreme, she went over the top by saying she was going to leave drugs in the mistress's hotel so that the police would arrest her for drug possession. Nur Azira then lodged a police report after receiving the threats. And updated as of 7 p.m, here are the top trending topics and searches on the internet today. Malaysian-born actress Tan Sri Michelle Yeoh is set to co-produce the film version of the much-talked-about book, The Billion-Dollar Whale. This was announced after the rights for the film were obtained by SK Global, the company behind the recent box office hit Crazy Rich Asians. Authored by Wall Street Journal journalists Tom Wright and Bradley Hope, the book focuses on Malaysian fugitive businessman Joe Low, who is allegedly the mastermind behind the 1MDB money laundering scandal. There is no word yet on who has been cast in what roles, or if Leonardo DiCaprio and Miranda Kerr, who are featured prominently in this book, will make cameos. Now, following the news, however, many Malaysians took to venting online against Tan Sri Michelle's involvement in the billion-dollar whale, as she previously endorsed former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Najib Tun Razak. The backlash dominated the conversation on social media, especially Twitter, with many calling Yeoh an opportunist and branded her involvement as insulting. Another news, heavy rain which lasted for 3 hours in Kedah saw several districts in the state hit by flash floods early Friday morning. Floodwaters, which started to rise at 5 a.m, inundated nearly 100 homes in 6 villages in Baling while residents were asleep. Baling District Civil Defence Force Officer Lieutenant Muhammad Faizul Abdul Aziz said a total of 94 families were affected by the flash floods in the district. Among the villages affected include Kampung Siput, Kampung Tanjung Merbau, Kampung Banggul Derum and Kampung Laha. Muhammad Faizul said floodwaters rose to half a metre in some areas, forcing residents to be evacuated, but the situation improved later at noon. In Alusar, areas affected by the flash floods include Alur Mengkudu and Simpang Kuala, starting at 11 p.m. on Thursday. State Public Works Water Supply and Water and Energy Resources Committee Chairman Zamri Yusof said the flash floods in Alustar were especially due to clogged and shallow drains which needed to be improved. The Veterinary Services Department, JPV, has teamed up with the National Disaster Management Agency, NATMA, to curb the rabies outbreak in Sarawak from spreading to near areas in the state. Commenting on the matter, JPV Director General Datuk Dr. Kwaza Nazimuddin Hassan Nizam said the situation was under control, but stressed that precautionary measures must be taken to prevent the situation from becoming worse.
Jadi ini agak membimbangkan sebab dia dah keluar daripada bahagian kucing. Sebelum ni banyak berlaku kes-kes di bahagian kucing. Itulah kita sedang berbincang dengan NADMA untuk melihat bagaimana mereka boleh terlibat. NADMA adalah National Disaster Management Agency kan. Jadi sebab tu macam saya kata kita sedang berbincang untuk menggerakkan lebih banyak sumber lah untuk memberi penekanan untuk kawal penyakit itu dengan secepat mungkin.
He also said all parties, including local residents, must play their role in preventing the outbreak from spreading further. Dog owners were also reminded to be more responsible by making sure that their dogs are vaccinated. This came after the Sarawak Disaster Management Committee declared 5 newly infected areas, pushing the total number to 41. The new areas are Jalan Teng Chin Hua in Sibu, Jalan Kilang in Bintangor Meradong in Sarike, Jalan Airport Lama in Kapit, as well as Piasau Jaya and Lutong Shell in Miri. Coming up, Canada MPs are voting to strip the Myanmar's civilian leader's honorary citizenship. The details when we return. Don't go away. Now, Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad will deliver the country's national statement at the 73rd United Nations General Assembly in New York. The speech, which will outline the country's foreign policy under the new government, will be live streamed tonight, so be sure to tune in at 11 p.m. on our 7 Edition Facebook page. We leave you with a contemporary Egyptian artist who is shaking up the Cairo art world by introducing new styles of work to traditional audiences. I'm Azlina Najri. Thanks for watching and have a lovely evening.